You know that feeling when you walk away from a conversation feeling just utterly drained, or maybe deeply confused, or somehow apologizing for something you didn't even do? Well, if so, you might have unknowingly stepped onto a hidden battlefield. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to decode the internal reality of psychological manipulation tactics, and most importantly, talk about how to actually combat them. We'll be diving into our source material, Shield and Shadow, and using a simple pencil stickman in our visuals to help map out this mental battlefield. We're going to look at the hidden mechanics of control and figure out how you can forge an absolutely unbreakable psychological shield. Okay, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, the manipulator's mind. Second, the hook. Third, the trap. Fourth, the escalation. And finally, number 5, the psychological shield. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's just jump right in. All right, starting things off with Section 1, the manipulator's mind, and specifically, why incredibly intelligent people fall for the trap. So this is literally the million-dollar question, right? You'd think that only naive or maybe inexperienced people get trapped, but our source material reveals something fascinating. Manipulators actually specifically target traits like empathy, compassion, and trust. They don't want to engage your logical brain in a fair debate, no way. Instead, they bypass your logic entirely through sheer emotional overload. By the time your intellect catches up, your emotional self is already totally entangled. So intelligence doesn't actually make you immune. In fact, actually scratch that. Sometimes it just makes you way better at rationalizing the manipulator's toxic behavior. To truly grasp this internal reality, let's map out the life cycle of a manipulative trap across a timeline. It doesn't just happen overnight. It's more like a slow, calculated boil. You start at week 1 with the hook, where everything feels just perfect. But by month 3, the trap closes. Month 6 brings the intense escalation, and by year 1, if you're recognizing the signs, you're finally building the defense. So let's look a bit closer at how this whole journey begins. That brings us right to the start of our timeline. Section 2, the hook, also known as love bombing. Now, what's really wild here is that the manipulator's initial goal isn't cruelty at all. It's to create an addictive dependency. They basically drown their target in a flood of affection, excessive compliments, grand gestures, the whole shebang. It feels like you've met your soulmate, or maybe the perfect boss, or an instant best friend. But the underlying architecture here is entirely structural. They're rapidly building a pedestal, just that they can control exactly when to knock you off of it. On the surface, the manipulator's outward actions look incredibly generous. We're talking excessive gifts and praise. But their internal goal? Totally different. They want to create total emotional dependency. The target's reality shifts into this unhealthy, isolated space where the manipulator becomes their sole source of validation. And once you rely completely on them for your self-worth, man, that hook is deeply, deeply set. And once that dependency is established, we slide right into Section 3, the trap. This covers gaslighting and emotional blackmail. And it's where reality itself starts getting seriously distorted. We hear the term gaslighting thrown around a lot these days, but let's accurately define it based on our source. It's a systematic tactic designed to make a victim question their own reality. The absolute crucial point here is that gaslighting breaks down your trust in yourself. The manipulator will casually drop things like, "That never happened," or "You're imagining things." And over time, your brain is just throbbing with confusion and cognitive dissonance. You literally stop trusting your own memory and start relying on the manipulator's version of reality. So how did these abstract traps actually look in everyday life? Well, for gaslighting, picture a coworker just flat out denying a conversation ever happened at work, totally making you look unstable. For emotional blackmail, it's often a partner weaponizing the silent treatment. They just ignore you. And that absence of connection becomes a punishment designed to force you to comply, basically making you beg for their approval just to restore the peace. Let's actually zoom in on that second tactic for a second. Emotional blackmail relies on an unholy trinity: fear, obligation, and guilt. A lot of people call it the fog. The internal goal here is pure, unadulterated control. They literally use your own conscience against you. By making you feel guilty for their unhappiness or obligated to fix all their problems, they leave their target completely paralyzed, just crushed under this heavy weight of guilt. You aren't acting out of love anymore. You're acting out of fear. But what happens when the target finally realizes something's wrong and tries to push back? That brings us to Section 4, the escalation, and a little concept called DARVO. When cornered, manipulators absolutely do not apologize. Instead, they deploy DARVO.
It's an acronym that stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and defender. It's honestly one of the most dangerous and disorienting techniques in the manipulator's playbook, mostly because it completely flips the script of reality in real time.
Let's watch this play out. Say a target tries to calmly set a totally valid boundary, something simple like, hey, please don't speak to me disrespectfully. Suddenly, boom, the manipulator explodes with indignation. They deny doing anything wrong, they attack the target's character, and then miraculously claim that they are the true victim. So the actual victim is left comforting the actual offender. It's complete psychological whiplash.
And the thing is, Darvo rarely happens in a vacuum. It's usually mixed into this overwhelming barrage of other tactics. Things like triangulation, bringing in a third party to validate their false narrative, or projection, accusing you of the exact toxic behaviors they're committing, or even future faking, dangling false promises of a better tomorrow just to keep you enduring a miserable today. It's an entire arsenal designed for one purpose, keeping you completely off balance.
It is a terrifying arsenal, for sure. But here is where we take the power back. Let's move to our final section, Section 5, the psychological shield, and look at building your defenses.
Okay, so how do you actually protect yourself emotionally? You need a concrete game plan. Step 1, identify the tactic objectively. Just name it, tell yourself this is gaslighting or this is Darvo. Step 2, pause. Do not react. Let your nervous system cool down. Remember, manipulators feed on your emotional reactions, so you've got to starve them of it. And step 3, respond with firm, neutral boundaries. Don't overexplain, don't justify, just state the boundary cleanly and step back. There's this profound insight from our source material that I absolutely love, and it really captures the ultimate defense strategy here. Manipulation is, at its core, a war for your reality. So the shield is built by radical self-trust. You have to document your truth, rely on your own memory, and just stubbornly refuse to let someone else's distorted narrative overwrite your lived experience. You are reclaiming the pen to write your own story. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to really think about. Look closely at your relationships, at work, in your family, with your friends, or your partner. Where are you letting the shadow of manipulation cross your own boundaries? Where are you acting out of fear, obligation, or guilt instead of genuine choice? Building that awareness is the very first piece of your psychological shield. I really hope this deep dive helps you recognize the battlefield, trust your own reality, and start building your defenses today.